んにちは、ドクター。改めてロドスにお礼をさせてもらえるかしら。私と友人たちを受け入れてくれてありがとう。もう資源部でたっぷり休ませてもらえたし、そろそろジマーたちの仕事に加わらせてちょうだい。
Codename Rosa is a member of Rhodes Island who joined after the initial Chernobog Incident, as in the one at the start of the game. She used to be a student council president at her old school, but now she has a good reputation for working in the logistics department at Rhodes Island. She has since become a frontline sniper for RI. At this moment, she does not have an operator record to give more information, so I will go with what's readily available from her own archives and from the Children of Ursus event. At this moment in time, Rosa appears to be uninfected, although during the Chernobog incident, due to the entire state being covered by the catastrophe in Originium, she requires careful observation and regular checkups. Her archive file states that she is a young lady from a pure pedigree of nobles fallen from grace. Most residents of Rhodes Island view her as a polite young lady, though she is of noble descent. She tends to view people indifferent to their status, which is always a good thing. Being part of a noble family, her family was included in the aristocratic ruling class, which would actually control the right of speech in Ursus. During the Ursus Great Rebellion, her family, the Rostov family, was one of the few to rise up and inherit everything from a certain count they previously served under. The Rostov family and Count Boris, mayor of Chernobog, were good friends and conducted business in open and in secret. Thus, the Rostov family was considered elite status until, of course, the Chernobog incident, rendering everything meaningless. Rosa's recount of the Chernobog incident is far from pleasant. She once spoke to the doctor about it, and it goes as follows. When the incident initially broke out, Mephisto gathered all the students from nearby schools and put them under Reunion's control. There were so many students here, all filled with anxiety and fear. During this, it is said that Rosa had to take on a disgraceful role. After escaping from the school, they had to survive in what remained of Chernobog, the now half-destroyed city. People doubt the extent of what Rosa described during this incident, but she assures people it's true. Her group was trapped inside Peterheim Middle School, a bit after Reunion seized control of Chernobog. Around that date is the start of the Chernobog incident. Upon getting control, Mephisto did nothing within the schools, but also didn't allow them to leave. He wanted to observe students trapped inside the schools and see what would happen. Rosa joined this group a bit later than the others due to her being with her parents, and does not want to speak of the experiences that other operators had. Although she ended up becoming the leader of her group initially, it was not an easy decision. The different aristocrats fought each other over resources and decided whoever had the highest title should lead them. Thus, she elected herself. She attempted to maintain peace among everyone in the situation, but a few weren't happy with being led by her and decided to leave. Someone suggested robbing poor or commoner people in order to procure more resources for themselves, and she agreed. At the cost of those lesser in status, she forsake them and used the food and such to let herself survive. It worked for a short amount of time, but eventually was destroyed by Zima's group. She initially ran away, but was caught by other students. Zima thought she was so pathetic that she saved Rosa. She then joined Zima and her group after. She realized that she was not as noble or kind as she thought she once was. Reunion relaxed their control over the schools when Mephisto encountered Amia during the Doctor's rescue mission. Now, she wants to atone and do something for the Ursus people. She has since realized that aristocratic society in itself is toxic and unreasonable, that there is no difference between a commoner and a noble, and we're all just people at the end of the day. Her actions as a noble also reflect the Ursus history as a whole. Ursus got so huge and prominent by waging war and pillaging. She feels separated from the others and doesn't want to speak on their behalf, and thus hopes the Doctor will help them. When she initially was sharing her story with Zima, Zima seemed to not care until Rosa mentioned the pillaging. Zima is a bit of an underdog. She hates bullies and the aristocracy. As soon as Zima hears about what Rosa did to secure food, She slams Rosa to the ground and lands a few punches to her face, and Rosa does nothing but give back a tragic and depressed smile. Rosa realizes what she did was morally wrong, but she confides in Zima and informs her the only reason she even realized this is because of her. Rosa revealed that she wants to cut her wrist and slit her throat with the guilt of what went on in her group, though she has also considered poisoning her own tea and death by saber, though she would feel guilty if people found her corpse and doesn't want to cause them any trouble. She also wishes that she died with everyone else on the day that Zima's group attacked, so that she could have died a noble death in her eyes. In fact, Zima even said there's still time, as in to kill her, and Rosa simply replies, "You really could?" and is met with silence. She wanted to stay in the fantasy world that she's a wonderfully kind, noble woman here to do her service, that it's her right to source items from commoners, but now she is just plagued by guilt that she agreed to pillage from everyone else and essentially sacrifice them because, you'll starve without food. She gets depressed when she considers the triumphant smiles her fellow nobles gave her upon coming back with more food and water, and how she smiled in return. Her only solace is that she didn't directly kill a single person, although her hands are probably still bloody. Zima still somewhat hates Rosa, but she comforts her. One line in particular that stood out to me is, "Doing what you can to survive isn't bad." Although she laments Rosa's group for wreaking havoc onto commoners, she doesn't fault Rosa for trying to lessen the chaos around her and survive herself. When joining Rhodes Island, there were initially a couple of hiccups with the whole Ursus student self-government group, though it seems to be fine now. When Rosa joined, she started with the logistics department. She initially was trying to visibly act less like an aristocrat, and it was easy to tell that she's trying to lower her position, but she is genuinely trying to change herself. Most people do not like nobles, especially Ursus nobles. Rosa tends to just smile and shake her head when she's confronted, and doesn't let it get in the way of her working. One time, an outraged Ursus operator once confronted Rosa, and Estina, another member of Zima's group initially, stood between them and said, "No person should be judged because of where they came from." The operator later apologized. Rosa also consulted Zima when deciding what her code name should be. She asked what Zima thought of the name Rosa, to which Zima confirmed that it meant dew, and that's how she decided her name. And from here, I tried to research what Rosa might have meant by that. Upon very brief search, it might mean something resembling dew in a fresh or pure manner. Dew also means moisture, especially when appearing in minute droplets, such as tears. According to the churchofjesuschrist.org, the miraculously refreshing and reviving effect of dew upon the plants in the Holy Land prompted Isaiah to use it as a figure of resurrection and Hosea to use it as a figure of repentance. Now I think all of these can probably contribute to what Rosa might have meant by dew as her name, especially the resurrection and repentance part. And by resurrection, I don't mean like literally revive herself, but more of a figure of speech in that she wants to be a new person. Rosa's weapon is not really a weapon meant to be wielded the way that she does. It is a small-scale siege engine used to bridge gaps between inner-city warfare or get into one of the moving cities. Rosa found it when wandering Chernobog in search of signs of life after the initial incident. It was useless at the time, but she had kept it around for intimidation. It being there gives us a glimpse into how bad Chernobog must have been at that time. However, Rosa requested Vulcan to modify the weapon into a long-range offensive weapon for her own usage. Rosa is a polar bear, confirmed by the name on her coat. You can also see them in her Elite 2 art. Of all the characters in the Ursus student self-governing group, she's the only one with a different uniform since she was from an elite school. She also has heterochromia, meaning her eyes are different colors. It is also likely that her name, Natalia Andreevna Rostova, is a reference to Natasha Rostova, the protagonist of War and Peace. It's a famous work by Russian author Leo Tolstoy. Her skin is also a reference to the German musical Elizabeth. They are both depressed nobles with an obsession with death, and the picture frame that Rosa stands in is very similar to the picture frame Elizabeth will stand in. The costume description reads, "Count of Rostov regards his eldest daughter as his most perfect masterpiece, but following an unexpected misfortune, Natalia chose to be herself." I will leave a link to an article analyzing the skin further. It's a pretty interesting read, and I recommend it if you're a fan of Rosa. Anyway, that's about it, so I'll just end it here. See you guys next time.